I need you not to talk.
I'm afraid if I don't explain.
Hi. How many times have we talked at this point? Many times. Countless times.
I feel like I know you very intimately. Not that.
Not that way.
But,
not that way.
Yes, but
in
many
a nice,
times. I've been
yes.
lucky enough to have you at SAG talks and
you're like amazing. And I mean, this, you guys, okay. First of all, before we even talk about the show and the winter finale episode, that's the correct terminology, right? The
yes,
cliffhanger.
Yes, the cliff.
Let's
yeah,
talk
the last
about a light, frothy issue, gun control. And Julianna is one of the many, many actors who signed a letter to President Obama on the issue. And I just wanted her to talk a little bit about that because we were just sitting backstage saying, you know, we both have young kids. And mine is starting kindergarten in September. And they will start to learn how to do lockdown drills, which is horrifying to me that in this day and age that is something that kids have to be aware of. And
I know, I find it the most interesting. I think about this a lot, and I work with the Brady Act. So, and I went to D.C. and talked at a summit there, and I've been very involved in it. What I find so fascinating about this whole topic that no one's really talked about is that everyone who's pro-gun is anti-abortion. So they're all pro-life, but they're killing everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, none of it makes sense to me that we wouldn't just have common sense laws, you know, just common sense laws. And I think, you know, despite the fact that Sandy Hook should have been really the reason everyone jumped to it when you see, you know, 6-year-olds getting gunned down in school, but the fact that President Obama came out and took executive action made me proud to be an American. It made me proud that I had voted for him. I know that was a very hard thing for him to do, and it was important that, because there's so many naysayers and horrible, toxic comments about what he's trying to achieve, which has nothing to do with your Second Amendment rights. And I think we all just felt very important, all of us who have been fighting for gun control, to say thank you, and to show the rest of the world that this country isn't as crazy as Trump is making us out to look, but that we actually are a thinking, feeling democracy.
And that we can take reasonable action. I mean, that's all this is reasonable action.
That's all it is, reasonable. There's nothing, there's no rights being violated, you know? I mean, no one has the code to my cell phone, so no one should have a code to anyone else's gun. That's basically, you know, it's that simple.
And it shouldn't be easy to purchase assault weapons because you really kind of don't need them.
Right.
In a normal society.
I just think, I think that at enough is sort of exactly what everyone's just feeling like, we're done. I don't want to, I can't hear about it like it's normal conversation. This isn't normal.
No, and like we were saying that, you know, you reach a moment where you see another headline and you're like,
Right, another shooting. Well, it wasn't in my town.
Yeah.
It will be.
It will be, yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, thank you for signing it.
That was a Debbie Downer way to start.
But now we're going to talk about, did you guys see the last episode of The Good Wife? Amen. So, how difficult was it to shoot that last scene with poor Alan coming?
Well, I mean, what was the most difficult about it, and God bless, thank God Alan had all the lines in it, but what the most difficult thing was just not to start weeping, because I'm not a method actor. I can't like think of a dead dog and then cry for the scene. It's never been my way, because if I'm thinking of a dead dog, then it's all about the dog and I'm out of the scene. I don't know how that people do that. I'd love to learn. It might make my life a little easier, but so I've been so lucky to play this character for 6.5 years, and I get really into Alicia's psyche, and to bring back something that happened from season 1, and see it on Alan's face, and you know, he's such a good actor, and we've been working together so long that it's like music with he and I. I just kept trying not to cry because it was devastating. You just think, what would my whole life have been like if I had heard that message? How can you not, and you're always told don't have any regrets on your deathbed. Well, I just could feel Alicia like it changed everything for her. So it was a devastating scene to shoot, and yet incredibly strangely cathartic, just in that we got to the grit of it finally. And as you can see in the episode on Sunday, there's some grit.
There's some grit.
That's going to happen.
And the message in question is that Will had left her a voicemail saying that he loved her and would drop everything for her.
Yeah.
But the voicemail...
And if she didn't respond, he would just know to go on as usual.
Yes, and the voicemail was erased.
By Eli.
By Eli, because he wanted Alicia to continue with the campaign on behalf of her husband. To stand by her man, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Eli had other motives, and his were always political and for his candidate. And I think the second he starts having feelings for another person, he realizes how much he has messed with her life.
Do you think it really has eaten away at him, like he said? Or is it just that it was expedient? I don't know.
No, I do. I think Eli really loves Alicia. And I think he knows that she is the glue that holds it all together and that she's actually the political star in the family. I mean, you don't go back to work after having not been practicing law for 13 years and rise so fast. And Alicia's incredibly smart. And I think that Eli sees her potential. And genuinely, he knows her better than many people. He's with her a lot. He was her campaign manager, so to speak, as First Lady. So, and way before that. And he saw what a dog Peter was, and he saw how she handled it. So I think it's been brewing, and I think he genuinely cares for her, and I think she genuinely cares for him. Not right now. And in the next episode, it's quite heartbreaking. Yeah. How she treats him, but rightfully so. I mean, I have to defend her.
don't think it's heartbreaking. It's deserved.
Good. There you go.
Why would it be heartbreaking? He basically ruined her life.
Well, I guess when I say heartbreaking, it's heartbreaking to watch him suffer. But you're right.
Do you think that Alicia has reached a tipping point in terms of being with Peter?
Yes. I do. I think you'll see it in Sunday's episode. It's quite poignant. I guess it was episode 7 of this season where she looks at him and says, "You want to get laid?" And they go and have a quick one. And one of my favorite lines that Alicia's ever said is, "Peter, I basically seduced you. You don't have to call me in the morning." Like she's just turned a corner. Yeah. And it's so fun to play as a woman who, what I love about getting older is the ability, the bullshit meter is so apparent as you get older that you just don't take it anymore. I remember being younger and being like, "Oh, okay." And you get to a certain age and you're like, no. There's a freedom in it for me personally, but also for Alicia now is finally unleashing that side in her that she's always had to hold back for fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, or being thought of as bad. And I think now she doesn't care. So it's so much fun to play.
And I know that from every conversation we've ever had, you won't reveal plot points. You don't even know plot points, generally
I
speaking.
purposely don't, so that I don't purposely lie to you.
Where do you want her to go?
That's a great question. Ultimately, what I would love for her is to be happy in love.
But not with Peter.
No.
I think that ship
I don't want her with Peter.
Yeah.
That
ship has sailed and crashed and gone under.
I think that ship has sailed, and I think I don't think it can ever be repaired. The damage that was done was done. It doesn't mean she doesn't love him. I think she genuinely cares for him. But I also think she has stopped her life for his life, and that didn't really get her anywhere, I don't know if you've noticed this season, but Alicia's been drinking quite heavily. And there were hints of it over the years. There was a great monologue she said, I think it was season 4 maybe, where she said, I used to love the silence before the kids came home at 3 p.m. and I'd pour myself a glass of wine.
I remember that, yeah.
Like little things, these writers are so smart, little things that they've written that I've said as Alicia over the years, they stay in your psyche when you're playing her and they start coming out in different ways. It fascinates me. And so this year it's tequila. I guess it's a quicker high. It's like graduating. And I think she's might be disappearing a little bit into...
like she's a functioning alcoholic.
I think she's a functioning alcoholic, and I think it's going to have to be addressed at some point. You will see her acknowledge it in not the next episode on Sunday is our 11th. Then 12th, there's a 12th, which sort of doesn't deal with a lot of her stuff, and then 13 is where it all comes to a head. And she talks about it. So she knows, but I think she is a functioning alcoholic. And why? Because you always have to look at why.
Of course.
What are you running from? What are you trying to mask over? What are you, trying to bury? What are you trying not to feel? So it's interesting, because this is a woman who's so in control, and you start to see her lose quite a bit of control. So what I'd love to see her is not necessarily sober, because I just don't think, I think Alicia always needs a little wine or tequila. But what I'd love to see her is not drinking alone, I guess I should say. I don't want to see her drinking alone anymore. I want to see her happy in some sort of a relationship that's challenging for her. And when I say challenging, I just mean intellectually, stimulating. And I would love to see her not with that law firm. She keeps going back to that law firm. And I think she's happier alone,
And speaking of law, do you think that, she's taken on some pretty repellent cases. Do you think that you'd be able to, if you were her, separate yourself from the person you're defending?
It's a great question, Donna. My husband calls himself a recovering lawyer, and he would, he's no longer that, but I would ask him a lot of questions about, one of the things he always would say, he was a Wall Street litigator for 6 years, and he hated it because he didn't want to be around those people. He didn't want to just make rich people richer. It wasn't comfortable for him. And he said there were certain guys in his law firm that were so great at just separating who they were with what they were doing. But before he was a litigator, he was working on a death row case in D.C., and he would go to death row and talk with the client who ultimately ended up, they lost, and he died. And he said he couldn't get out of it. It's incredibly difficult when you believe the person and you're defending them and you don't win, but when you don't believe the person and you're still defending them, a lot of lawyers have to do that. If you don't like the person you're defending, but it's a job and you're bringing in hours in your book, I don't know if I could do that. I really don't. I think the interesting case was a few episodes ago that aired about the doctor who fantasized. It was
God,
rape,
that was such an awful, oh my
sedate,
God, yeah.
and kidnap, or KSR. Kidnap, sedate, and rape. Which is a true thing, which was horrifying. I learned so much on the show. I was like, this can't be real. And it exists. And I thought, how is she going to defend him? That's not right. This is a man who had fantasies. But then, what I love about playing a lawyer, guys, I'm not smart enough to be one, but God, I just love when the justice system works. And that judge was right. The jury found him guilty, but Alicia had said to the judge, this is a slippery slope. It was a fantasy. He didn't act on it. So where do we draw the line? You can't arrest someone and throw them in prison for thinking, oh, wow, she's hot. I might want to have sex with her. Where's the line drawn? Yeah. So then I read this stuff. I have to learn it, so I read it over and over and over and over again. And every time you read more of the script, each time you get a new little sparkle of light that allows you to play the scene better, I think. But I actually really loved defending him, even though, as a woman especially, he was a sick fucker. I mean...
And he admitted it. He had no shame.
And
he was just like, yeah, I did it. I did
well,
it.
I think he did have shame. He had shame when people called him on it. But his wife, who came in, who was a clinical psychiatrist.
Oh my God! God help anyone who pays her to help.
Well, I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah.
She was like, "Yeah, it's a release for him. He's a surgeon. He saves lives. This is how." So everyone has their stuff, you know. And when you're representing people, you meet all kinds of crazy people, and I find it fascinating because you have to find the good in everybody. Like, if I'm going to defend this person, I have to believe in the case, so I have to find the good in them. And I know that there are times where you just, you know, when she was in bond court, she wanted to get acquitted a million times. She was like, just what's it called, recused? Is that the word?
Yes.
Because she, you know, then take me off the case. You know, this guy did murder someone. I don't want to, but sometimes you don't have a choice, you know. I find it fascinating.
And also legally, everyone is entitled to a defense.
Everyone's entitled to a defense.
Someone's got to do it. Why not her?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, she was at an all-time low then, but I wish more people like Alicia would do bond court, because I think we have that threw a light on something I had no clue about. Even my brother-in-law, who's a judge in the Bronx, we were having dinner with my sister, and he said, wow, that actually exists, but to see it on film puts a whole new light, you know, and these people need help. It's a terrible system.
And I know that you are an insanely thorough, I was going to say preparator, which is not even a word, and I have no idea where that came from. Preparer, which I also don't think is a word, but you're very prepared. Has it become easier for you with the years, or do you still have to put in the same amount of legwork to learn the lingo and the terminology and the cases and kind of the process?
Yeah, it depends on each episode. I like to feel so fully prepared. And a lot of that is just learning lines, to be honest. I just feel like I have to get on the set and know them inside out to keep the day. Everything is sort of on my shoulders, and I feel like it helps other actors too to see me come in with energy and knowing all my lines, even though I had been there the day before for 14 hours. I want them to know it's possible. It's not always fun, but I think it's important for when you're on a television show and you're being paid as a professional actor on that show to take it seriously and know your stuff. What happens in that process is I learn more about each case. I mean, I feel so grateful to have Google, because half the time, if I don't know something, I really can just quickly research it and find out about it. Or, you know, there's always, I work with such great people. Most of the time, someone has done it. I'll be like, wait, what does that mean? And someone's like, oh, I Googled it last night. So I'm of like minds on set, which is really lovely. And we all learn from each other. And I would say pretty much every single case is a true case. It has happened or is a simile of.
Like the doctor, like that cop.
That happened.
Remember that? Yeah.
So it makes it more fun because I feel like I'm learning stuff. So preparation and learning about what I'm doing is sort of hand in hand.
Do you have to pinch yourself that you're headlining? I mean, actually, one of the best shows on TV, it's you and Christine Baranski, so two women.
She just had her second grandson. Sorry, I had to put that in there.
And the writing has never wavered, like ever. I mean, you guys have not had a weak season.
No. Well, I think Robert and Michelle would argue that.
Well, they're not here, so we have to talk
But they're not
for
here.
them.
Season 4 was a little bit, there were things we went out of our, sort of, not our comfort zone, but it just didn't meld with the show. But no, I do pinch myself constantly, and I feel like season 7 is more intricate and more interesting and more challenging than any of them. And they've all been, I mean, when I'm in, as much as we all hate being in court, the days we film court are very, very long. there's a lot to cover, and you say these lines, 20, 30 times because you have to say them for the jury and the judge and it's endless days. However, it's so interesting. I just find all the cases incredibly interesting. And honestly, Christine Baranski and I have both been around long enough in this business to know that we landed in a pot of gold. We feel so grateful to the writing and the fact that they don't have to write down to the audience because the audience all comes and they're all intelligent people who like to watch interesting cases and characters and television. So it feels, I do pinch myself. Not hard. But
just a gentle nudge. Can you talk your way out of a speeding ticket now? I pity the cop that pulls you over.
It's so sad. I've had one speeding ticket in my life, and it was just before I got the show.
Oh, because now you could totally, by due process of blah, blah, blah in the state of New York.
Well, I tried, my husband got pulled over. This was, I think we were in season 2 or something, upstate, and he got pulled over, and I kept trying to, I was in the passenger seat going, and the cop, I was trying to get him out of the ticket. The cop, he's so not interested. It didn't work. I'm so scared of authority that I'd be like, here's my, I'd probably wouldn't.
I'll pay triple, whatever you want. And before we turn it over to the audience, one more question. What has been for you both the most rewarding and the most challenging parts of playing Alicia?
Oh, great question. Both the most rewarding and the most challenging. Okay. The most challenging has been, we just finished it, but it hasn't aired yet, and I had a 1.5-page monologue, sort of, Robert calls it, woman on the verge. And you've never seen Alicia like that, but I had to, I don't want to give anything away, but she kind of just breaks down. It all gets too much for her. And Alicia's not great at showing her emotions. So I had to really rein it into a point, and it had to be very orchestrated. And it was still a 1.5 pages of dialogue. And this was after shooting 5 scenes in a courtroom. So I said to the director, Rosemary Rodriguez, who I've worked with many times, and I was so grateful she was the director on this, but I said, how many shots do you want in this scene? She goes, 2. I need a master and a close-up. And I said, okay, I've got 2 in me. And I just prepared and prepared and prepared it to the point where I had to know where the notes were in it. A lot of times I go on my instinct, and it usually works, but I wanted this to be so Alicia to try and figure out how to go. So it took me a long time on top of my daily scenes that I was doing to get to that place. So that's coming up. I don't know when that airs, in 2 weeks. And then what was the other question?
Most rewarding.
Most rewarding. Oh. God, I feel like watching Alicia grow and not really care anymore what people think about her has been really rewarding to play. In the pilot, she was sort of this lost.
Yeah, she was I remember just standing there.
She was almost a little Stepford wifey. It was all such a shock, and it was, that slap that she gives her husband. Robert King always said to him, that was like someone slapping her awake. And ever since that slap and waking up has been so rewarding to sort of play this person who's growing as I'm growing. That's the luxury of television. You get to grow with the character if the show stays on the air this long, which I'm very grateful for, because they're taking her in. I write them weekly, and I say, I seriously, and I say, I can't believe this is my 7th season, and I'm so excited to play this next episode.
And the fact that you have this whole sliding doors component now of this whole part of her life that it's just, it's gone.
And Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Cush
God, he's
Jumbo,
hot.
adding them to the cast has been such a joy for all of us, everybody, the crew, they're such fun to play with. And yeah, it's so nice to have a guy who is not the norm of that. You know, they were looking for someone who wouldn't wear a suit and a tie and didn't have his hair perfect. And in walks Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We're all like, oh yeah, please.
Like, I'll take him.
We'll keep that one.
Yeah.
But he's
Bring him back from San Francisco.
such a pleasure to work with. And Cush Jumbo, one of the things that I love about her, she's only 30. Before she got the job, she had seen every single episode of the show. So we'll be talking about, you know, the next script, and she's like, oh my God, the judge who's coming in, so he was on episode 207 in the second season. I love him. And I'm like, how do you... I'm about to start my 150th episode. I don't remember anybody.
You're like, I don't remember it was last week.
She knows everything. So it's so fun now in season 7 to see how excited she is. It's getting everyone else excited. So it's sort of keeping us all fresh. It's nice.
Well, it's an amazing show, and I'm sure you guys have some amazing questions.
Hi. I think, is it me? Hi. So my grandma and I have actually been extras on The Good Wife a lot.
You and your grandmother?
Actually, her more than me. She's right back there. She's been on it a lot. She loves it. And it's so much fun to watch you act. It's amazing. It's like a master class in itself.
Oh, thank you. Next time, make sure you say hi.
Yeah, I'll be like, hi, I was the creep from AOL. I was wondering, for you, you've been on the show for so many seasons. What, I guess, do you remember the moment you auditioned, and what would you go back and tell yourself before you walked into the room?
That's a great question, and I feel like such an idiot that I can't give you a fabulous answer, or not an idiot. I feel embarrassed by the luxury I had by being offered it. So I didn't have to go in an audition. But if it makes you feel better, 2 other actresses were offered it first, and I was told if they turned it down, I would get the job. Does that make it better? But I'll tell you one of the things that was my big concern when I went in and I met with Ridley Scott and the Kings and the man who directed the pilot, Charles, Alex, what was his name? Charles McDougall. Oh my God, 150 episodes. One of my big concerns was I said, I've been on a show doing 22 a year on network, and I'm scared that the writing is going to get watery. And my favorite answer was Ridley Scott. And he looked up, he was leaving the room, and he goes, oh, don't be so silly, just do it. Oh, okay, I'm in. And I got lucky.
Hi. So The Good Wife actually used to get catering from my old job at Ella Cafe. So,
oh my God,
thanks. And my question is, so I know that you serve as a producer for this show, and you served as a producer for Canterbury's Law. Do you ever see yourself directing or writing?
I see myself as maybe directing theater. I've never had a desire to direct episodic. I don't think it's a very fun job. I feel for all the directors, because it's different than when you're directing a movie, it's your movie, but when you're directing someone else's TV show, it's their TV show, and you have to go by their rules. So it doesn't feel creatively interesting, although we're so lucky that we get great directors who our writers trust enough that now, at this point, you know, they know how the machine works. And God, I wish I could write. I have dabbled in writing, and I've written some ideas and things that I would then give to a screenwriter who could actually put the dialogue to, but who knows? I mean, never say never. Writing appeals to me much more than directing, but I would love to direct a play. I think that would be a little more creative.
Oh my God, if you directed an episode of The Good Wife, I think you would never leave. You might as well just pitch a tent on set and not see your child for 6 months.
I'm always impressed by, like, Josh Charles directed, and I loved him as a director, and he could direct himself. I mean, they wouldn't write him heavily into the episode, but that would mean I was looking at myself for 10 days. I would go crazy. I couldn't stand it. Yes?
The Good Wife has had some interesting cases over the years, and I'm wondering if you follow any true crime docuseries that are very popular right now. Oh,
I've heard about this one.
Making a Murderer, right?
Yeah,
yes,
everyone's telling me to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, The Jinx, my friend is Andrew Jarecki, and I've literally known him for 20 years. And so that was something that I was obsessed with, and I had seen the trailer before he had put the whole thing together. Truly, I think one of the most brilliant, not just because I know him, but it was fascinating to watch. There's a great documentary that's not new, though, called Under the Stairs. Have you ever heard of that? I think it's Under the Stairs or Under the Staircase, which was a fascinating murder documentary. I find them all fascinating. I sadly don't have enough time, and I'm going to get onto that one in April when I go on hiatus. But I do love them.
And I think we have time for one more question.
I'm a huge fan of you, and now I'm a Cornell Law School student. Alicia is the very encouragement to me to become a good lawyer in the future. So I really want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and my question is, you always look confident, but have you ever had a period of time that you doubted yourself or feared that you're not on the right track? If you have, how did you overcome that problem? Yeah, thank you.
That's a great question. Yes. I mean, haven't we all? Maybe people haven't, but when I graduated from college, I moved to Brooklyn, and
Brooklyn.
Yay, Brooklyn! But back then it wasn't like I moved to Carroll Gardens, which my mother was like, "I spent my whole life getting out of Brooklyn. Now you're moving back." But it was very different then. Oh my God! I thought, what have I done? You know, you suddenly graduate school and you feel like you don't have a foundation. And there I was, like, waiting tables and going on auditions. And I had a little tiny agent that wasn't really helping me that much. And, I mean, it was a daily struggle and grind to think, what am I doing with my life? And then I sort of gave myself a 5-year timetable, and I thought if I haven't been able to at least pay my rent through acting in 5 years, I'm going to go back to school and do something more noble. And you know, slowly I got lucky, and I was able to pay my rent. I got a movie, and then I thought, oh, I'm never going to act again. And then, sure enough, 2 months, never going to wait on tables again. 2 months later, when that money ran out, I was back behind the bar bartending, you know, and eating humble pie. And I think it was sort of up and down like that for a while. And by the way, still is. I mean, acting, you know, we're really just court jesters. I mean, at any moment the king may say, we don't want you in the court. I mean, I never look at a job and think, oh, I'm just doing this for now because I have nothing else to do. I look at it and go, oh, thank God. Because you just never know. And I do feel like I got lucky in that I had to struggle to get there, because I always in the back of my mind think, well, when this show ends, am I going to work? And I know that's insecurity too. I mean, I'm sure I will, and I have to be okay with if I don't. I'll have to find something else. But I think that it's a daily. Not daily. I don't feel insecure daily. That would be lying. But I definitely have moments.
And let me ask you one last question before we wrap. I'm always interested to know, what was your aha moment where you realized that you could actually make a living at this?
Well, you know, I knew that I could eke by. I was about a year out of college, and I had been working steadily as an actor, doing a lot of regional theater, off Broadway, and commercials. I was in a lot of commercials, eating chicken wings and things like that. And just when I would think, oh God, I have to go back to waitressing or bartending, a residual check would come in.
Okay.
And I suddenly, by probably my second year out of college, I thought, well, I'm a working actor. And that's what I think of myself as today, by the way. I always think, okay, so I'm a working actor. And I mean, it's hysterical, the conversations I have with my husband when he's like, so honey, because he understands finances. He's like, so honey, I think we should invest in this company because blah, blah. And I'm like, but how much money?
Like $20?
And I'm like, so does that mean we could lose all that money? Because in my head, I make a very fine living, and I'm very comfortable. but it's been blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand the idea of giving a company that hard-earned cash, and it might make money or it might go away. I find that sickening. Like, I get nauseous, and I say to him, I'm like, because it's all been a steady climb, and you never lose that part of you, you know? I'd rather give it to charity than have it be lost on an investment company. Of course, you know, I also know that he's a lot smarter than I am, and I should probably listen, but it's just in the back of my head, you know? You just think. So once I was working in regional theater and doing all that, I really realized I could make a living where I could survive. And then when I was 26, I got ER.
And then that obviously changed
and that was
everything.
one of those things where I thought, okay, be smart, buy a house so you own something. You know, I was always smart with my money. I always felt like if I could touch it, then it existed. So, but I don't, I still have moments. You always do. You kind of just think, you know, you should never take anything for granted, and you should always be careful.
And always be nice, which you always are.
You should always be nice.
Do you know what this woman did before we end? When I was pregnant, we both happened to be at the same event, and I was in line for the bathroom, and she made all of these women move out of the way so I could go. Remember that? And you were like, and you looked at them and you were like, she's pregnant, let her go ahead of you. And they were like,
shamed them.
And I thought, I was like, she is awesome.
Aren't you always so stunned? And I'm always so stunned in New York. I'll be on the subway and I see a pregnant woman and
no one gets up.
up. And I'll stare daggers, and this is sexist of me, but I'll still stare daggers at the men I'm sitting next
Who are
to,
like reading
and get up and go like this to the woman. I know.
Their devices. Oh yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Manners.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you to the amazing Julianna. Watch this episode on Sunday. It's amazing.